Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today, love is in the air. Today is Valentine's Day, so why not talk about love on Survivor? But because this is Idled Out, we'll be talking about Survivor's biggest romantic fails. There are a number of times in Survivor history, mostly in the early years, where the show tried to set the stage for a romantic entanglement to take place, and it just didn't work out. The candles were lit, the champagne was fizzy, but the chemistry between the players just wasn't there. Before we begin, though, if you want some more Survivor love, go check out my friend Peridiam's video on some of Survivor's most famous showmances. It's a great look into Survivor love stories, famous and obscure, successful and unsuccessful. In fact, he did the math and has the statistical results on just how likely a Survivor showmance is to last. Are Survivor romances really built as strong as Rob and Amber, or as weak as Candace and Billy? You'll have to go check his video out to find out.
My prize isn't even the $1 million. My prize was that I fell in love in this game. Love at first sight. Her name is Candace. And in between...
Candace from Roro tribe.
Yeah.
So whether you're single as Nora or cuddled up next to your lover, your best friend, your honey, your boo, consider spending a bit of your Valentine's Day with me. All that said, let's dig into 6 times Survivor tried and failed to get romance in the air. At number 6 is Colby and Jerry's Island Getaway in Survivor Australia. This episode 10 reward challenge required the castaways to pair off in whichever manner they choose, and right away Jerry's calling dibs on Colby, the guy she's been pining for the entire game, and also easily the biggest challenge threat of the season. They decide to make the pairings even though by drawing names out of Colby's stupid hat, and well, wouldn't you know it, Colby and Jerry will be teammates after all, on this, the most romantic reward of the season. That would be a helicopter ride to a boat ride to some snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef. Oh, and a hearty picnic lunch set to some very early 2000s editing choices. Whoa, I love this Busta Rhymes music video. The dynamic here is truly hilarious, as Jerry considers themselves a regular Australian Adam and Eve, and Colby just wants to eat in peace. Jerry even compares this getaway both in confessional and to Colby directly as the perfect honeymoon. Without the sex, of course. Unless... Early Survivor was borderline obsessed with making some sort of on-island romantic or physical connection happen, and Colby and Jerry were probably their best shot until Amber and Rob in All-Stars. At a rate of roughly 1 per season, there was a reward challenge or some other situation that was suspiciously close to what might be called a date. But Survivor's generally a pretty pure game, so they weren't cooking the books on getting their youngest, hottest, most singlest people onto these rewards, but they were certainly aspirational. They were cooking the books in another way, though, and here we go through the looking glass, people. Time for a Survivor conspiracy. Colby and Jerry have several bottles of that most romantic of drinks, champagne, at their mayonnaise-soaked sandwich, macaroni salad, and potato chip lunch. On what planet does one drink champagne with Doritos? I'm pretty confident in saying that had Keith and Amber or any other combination of players won this reward, the bubbly would not have been there. Colby even points out the obvious safety hazard.
We got champagne over there.
That'd be cool.
But
We don't need to have alcohol for going diving.
Sure we do.
Sorry, Colby, this is a setup. Just try and look as disinterested as possible. There you go. At number 5 is the episode 14 reward in Survivor Cook Islands that saw Yul, Ozzy, and Parvati whisked away to an overnight spa, complete with copious amounts of champagne, hot tubs, nudity, and champagne-fueled hot tub nudity. So it's the final 6, and all 6 remaining players are all preternaturally attractive people. The reward challenge is to cover their bodies in mud, dump it into a bucket, and the top 3 with the heaviest buckets after 10 minutes win. Their reward? Cleaning all that mud off. Yul, Ozzy, and Parvati win, and are sent to a local spa where they first get a much-needed shower. This would honestly be a decent enough reward in and of itself, but there's More to come.
I will remember that shower, that one particular shower, for the rest of my life. Because it was hands down the best shower I've ever had. And that was just the beginning.
Oh, indeed. Next is a massage, and then dinner and drinks, a romantic setup that gets even more romantic when the power goes out and it becomes a literal candlelit dinner. Filled with champagne after 34 days of not eating, everyone's guards are down, so all three of them pop off their clothes and pop into the hot tub, as Parvati and Ozzy flirt harder than any two human beings have ever flirted before, and Yul awkwardly sits in between them, his body language showing a profound level of discomfort. My favorite part is when they toast with their champagne glasses and Yul has nothing in his hand. Eventually, they all go to bed, the romantic hot tubbing and champagning failing to produce anything beyond Ozzy splashing around in the water. Still, I wonder if production was kicking themselves for making this a 3-person reward and having Yul awkwardly third-wheeling it, or if they were just thrilled to see 3 contestants naked in the hot tub. My guess is the latter. One person who definitely wasn't thrilled, though? Sundra, who lost the challenge. Let's put that down. At number 4 is one of my favorite odd couple reward pairings in Survivor history, Brandon and Frank's movie date in Survivor Africa. At the final 8 of Survivor Africa, the castaways compete in pairs to win a reward, a private outdoor screening of the 1985 film Out of Africa, backdropped against the setting African sun. A romantic situation indeed. One doesn't typically take the homies to a drive-in movie under the twinkling stars. The tree mail they're given says simply to pair off, so they do the only fair thing, draw for pairs randomly. Against all odds, fate ordains that Brandon and Frank, who hate each other, are paired together, and Big Tom loses his mind.
Let the games begin.
Let the games
I swear, if I was playing a dirty trick on him, I couldn't have thought of a better thing to do to Frank.
God, his reaction there always kills me. You see, there are not two people on this planet less alike than Brandon and Frank. Every divide that exists in America is encapsulated between the two of them. Urban versus rural, younger versus older, floppy hat versus regular hat. Frank is also an old-school military guy who does not like nor understand homosexuality, and Brandon is openly and unabashedly himself. But that really is just part of the story. These are two people who would happily never interact in real life, and it shows. They loudly and openly despise one another with every fiber of their beings, so much so that just one episode prior, Brandon nuked his own game just so Frank couldn't get a foothold. Frank's also just kind of a weird dude in general. He clearly has trouble relating to people and is extremely cold. The dude can kill a vibe like no one's business. I mean, what the heck is this?
I've never had sex in an airplane.
I have.
Uh-oh, look out.
I'm ready to change sleeping wings on, T.
I've never broken the honor of a handshake.
They actually win the reward challenge, where they awkwardly and silently wait for the sun to go down so that the movie can begin and they can get this painful experience over with. But when the sun finally sets and Jeff breaks out the projector, they actually seem to have a pretty decent time enjoying the film, setting aside the game and their many, many differences for a couple of hours. It's actually genuinely heartwarming watching two people drop the superficial barriers and just enjoy each other's company. This is the first of a few drive-in movie dates the show did, and it was far more successful at igniting a spark in All Stars, where Rob won the reward and took along Amber, although Probst does some serious third-wheeling. While the producers were likely hoping that a pairing of like Ethan and Kim Powers would end up on this romantic get-together, Frank and Brandon's time spent together was far more hilarious and honestly sweeter than any other combination of people would have been, even though Frank tries to downplay how much he enjoyed Brandon's company later on.
It was difficult enough for me personally, but hey, it's a movie. You be quiet and you watch the damn movie. Yeah, the company could have been better, but we simply had popcorn, we had pop, we watched a movie. It's history, it's over with. Let's move forward.
Come on, man. You don't gotta lie. We've got the receipts on how much fun you were having. At number 3 is the Merge Summit in Survivor Borneo, a comically blatant attempt by Survivor to set up Sean and Jenna. At the final 10, an ambassador from each tribe, Jenna from Pagong and Sean for Tagi, were selected to visit each other's camps and then meet on a sand spit for an overnight stay to ostensibly discuss which camp to live at. It all starts innocently enough, with Jenna and Sean both taking their role as tribal ambassadors seriously, checking out the rival camps, assessing the livability, and getting to know the people.
Did a crab get it? The funkified already?
Fermented.
That's not good. Next.
Number 2.
Little did they know they were in for an evening of very forced romance. Now, I'm not sure if Sean and Jenna were chosen by their respective tribes or by the producers, but given how clear it is that this is meant to be a very fancy first date, I'm willing to bet they were handpicked by production. I mean, Jeff is practically giddy when Sean kisses Jenna hello.
Wow, we're off to a good start. A little kiss.
Let me remind you, they're only here to decide on which camp to stay at and what to name the merged tribe. Is an entire lobster and 4 bottles of wine really necessary for such a decision? In confessional, both Jenna and Sean call this out as an obvious romantic setup, and Jenna in particular is increasingly disinterested in the evening's affairs, as Sean recounts his love of baseball metaphors.
Making out, I think, first base, second base up to shirt, third base.
Okay.
Here's the thing. When even Sean recognizes this is a romantic setup, it's incredibly obvious. I mean, this is a guy who didn't even know he was being used by the Tagi 4 until, he was voted out. Of course, Sean and Jenna have actual negative chemistry, so Survivor's first romantic setup falls flatter than voting alphabetically in a $1 million game of strategy.
Sliding into home plate. Here's Jenna.
Okay.
I hope you guys like these Merge Summits, because at number 2 is the Merge Summit in Survivor Marquesas, attended by Kathy and Rob. For this, our second of the 3 summits we'll be covering here, Kathy and Rob are picked by their respective tribes to decide on a Merge tribe name and to paint the Merge tribe flag. Wow, a huge, huge responsibility. Yet again, they have all night to make such an important decision, but this time they'll be sleeping in the same bed and have an entire 30 rack of Coors Light to kill. Have fun. While no romance took place, obviously, the scene is genuinely one of the best scenes of the season, as we get to see 2 of the best players and characters of the season talk about the game and feel each other out as players and people, all while getting drunker and drunker. It's also, thankfully, the least awkward of these 3 summits, because I think, due to the difference in age between Kathy and Rob, there's no pressure for this to be a date. They can just get to know one another. The Tribal Ambassador twist this season was doomed from the start, though, and was never going to produce any romantic sparks, if only because Mata'amu only had 3 members by this point, and the youngest swingin' single was Nalia. But I suppose it was a worthy attempt on production's part, regardless. Although Kathy does have one, moment.
Cheers. Cheers.
And I was sitting across from this young buck. And I'm going, I'm gonna pound beers and eat pizza with this guy?
The next time they did this, they would definitely not be leaving the ambassador selections in the hands of the players. You just can't give them power like that. They'll clearly get it wrong. Survivor's greatest attempt and failure at setting up 2 players for romance is the summit in Survivor Amazon with Jenna and Dave. You know, it's only fitting that Survivor's horniest season claim the number 1 spot here. Survivor Amazon was divided by men versus women, and in episode 5, the tribes get tree mail telling them that one member of their tribe must depart for an evening of wine and laughter. And instead of letting the tribe pick who goes, the tree mail insists they send their youngest member. Yep, after the last summit failed to produce a romantic entanglement because the tribe selected the wrong people, production is back to taking things into their own hands. Send your youngest and hottest people. There will be wine. Although Jean does her best to foil their plans yet again.
Don't assume youngest means age.
What do you think, we age differently like cheese?
Could be youngest at heart.
When they arrive, Jeff gives them some song and dance about how the Amazonians believe that history belongs to old men, but opportunity belongs to the young, so, that's why we picked you 2, sure. He then tells them what a lovely evening they're in for, convincing them of the tastiness of the food, the hotness of the shower, and the softness of the bed, then gives Dave a good luck pat as he departs. Over dinner and drinks, Dave and Jenna spill all the details on their respective tribes, and Dave fumbles through his attempts at flirting.
Bob talks about Heidi's breast. We talk about your ass.
Mine?
Everything here is as romantic as possible. The food, the bungalow, even the palm frond shower, which is kinda sorta see-through. The next morning, they realize this wasn't all just for fun. They also have to select new tribes via a draft. And Dave sets himself up for failure later in the game by drafting Jenna's closest ally, Heidi, first, immediately breaking any sort of trust the two might have built over the evening's affairs. And then some increasingly baffling selections leaves him with this team. Come on, Dave. It's not like this was rocket science. Wait, you do what? Got nothing else for ya. To be my Valentine, like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.